Welcome to a new episode of Unfiltered. Today we have with us a close friend of mine, Omer. I've known Omer for many years. I think we first met at the Israeli CERT when you were starting.
Right.
I'm really glad to have Omer here. Omer is a researcher, worked at Enzo and now at SNCC, and we are happy to have him with us sharing some information.
Hi, glad to be here. Always a pleasure to meet old friends and discuss what we love. So actually, I remember the first time I met you. One of the first times that we worked together was on a WannaCry when I remember it was a Friday night and I was being called. You have to rush to the office. I was like a researcher and investigating for the CERT. And we instantly know it was a really big event, but also no one knew anything about it. At first, at the really first minutes and hours, it was a mystery what is going on. And then people started to get samples and say what the malicious code is doing. And you asked me, we were eating, and you asked me, do you know what happens after a machine is infected? And I said, yeah, it spread itself through networks and looking for network drives also. And you told me, yeah, I read it too in all of those reports, but I've saw the code, I've seen the code, and it doesn't do that. And it hit me like, oh my God, it's so easy to go and take things for granted that people write, people copy off each other, and you really have to validate everything as a researcher. You can't take anything for granted. And I remember that till this day. Every time that someone is
always with a
telling me something,
always with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
So Omer, as a researcher for many years in this field, and actually a person that helped new researchers enter this field and hiring researchers, if somebody is listening to us, what are you looking at? What is your best way to enter this field?
Right. So my first kind of introduction to, I think, cyber in a proper way was with a Magshimim program, which is an Israeli national program today, spanning, thousands of students that are like Excel students, Excel pupils from 10th to 12th grade, and kind of taking them into the most interesting units in the army.
So this is a new program. I don't think I've ever seen it at other countries.
Right. So the idea was to create an informal program to bring knowledge to more communities and more people to be able to join those very technical units in the intelligence corps. The programs was very successful. Like 90% accepted to very, very interesting
But what did you
places.
teach at Magshimim? What was the curriculum?
Right, so the curriculum was basically only practical about cyber security, first understanding what it is and how it is, and sampling very, very different types of knowledge. So first it was like languages, understanding C, C++, Java, JavaScript, all of those kind of different programming languages, and everything was with how to do it safely, what is the program like, what is the problem in buffer overflow. So from the start you would understand how can things be exploited. And the other part of it was networking, even assembly in some places, and the project. So they had to construct something in relates to either defending or trying to exploit something.
But this is like common knowledge. So what was the secret source of this successful program?
So I think the secret sauce was just being able to teach people how to teach themselves things. And this is something that is, I think, very important to the cyber industry. I think that also today, a lot of things are available to people to learn and also to test themselves, because you can prove yourself in many ways. The cyber today has a lot of CTF challenges or actual challenges and workshops that you can try and see how you understand and that you understand correctly.
So you don't think the knowledge is only in universities?
I think
a formal education.
Right. So I think, in my view, formal education in fields of cyber is a bit. It has its place, but it's far from real world. I see a lot of researchers that are researching things in university level, and a lot of the times it feels very non-related and non-practical. I mean, it's interesting, but it's not where you should start. I think being able to teach yourself things is the most important things for any researcher.
Where do you see it today? For people that are not living here, of course.
Yeah, so today the knowledge is everywhere. Everyone have access to the knowledge, and everyone can challenge themselves and see themselves progress. So you can go, become a bug bounty, self-proclaimed bug bounty.
I love bug bounty.
Yeah, and anyone can do it, and anyone can report something. And if it's good, it's accepted.
So for you, if somebody comes and show you his credits for bug bounty, that's a good candidate for you?
I think if I'll have someone who's give me his bug bounty record, it will be much better than any degree that he got from any academy.
You're a renowned researcher. I think you've spoke at the biggest conferences this year and last year. Any stories about the best swag you got?
Yeah, so I do have one story that I always tell. It was at RSA conference, and I went, there's tons of booths, and I saw like a big line of people standing for something, and a sneak booth at the end. At that time, I wasn't working for Sneak, I was at Enzo. And then I got in line, and I saw someone handing out tokens with Sneak imprints on them. At the end of the line, there was a vending machine with a claw that you need to try and pick up whatever.
What was the prize?
I don't even remember, probably a teddy bear, whatever. But then someone came up to me, and gave me those 2 tokens. And I was standing there and I was thinking, okay, I can stand here for, 10 minutes, wait for my turn and lose those tokens probably, as everyone before me. Or I can just
save the tokens.
Save the tokens and have a nice kind of swag, to bring back home. And then going forward like a few months, Sneak bought Enzo. And then we got into those offices and I unpacked everything from my old desk and I had those tokens, and every single person who was, going by my desk would ask me, how did you get those? Those are so cool. And I was just,
that's a cool story. That's a full circle there, right?
Yeah, that came
getting the swag and then joining the company.
Probably I have one in my bag somewhere, but but it was fun that I just thought it was very appropriate.
Good things that they don't give out socks.
Oh my God, yeah.
So being a researcher is not just self-taught. It's actually reading a lot. Where do you get your information from?
Actually, I'm bombarded, like everyone. There are tons of interesting discussion on Twitter, tons of interesting on Medium, ton of the Hacker News and WhatsApp groups.
I think we share a couple of
and we share a couple. Right. So the big things, they'll come to me. And now, so I don't need to really worry about it. But the smaller kind of things that interest me, I have my own RSS feed that is accumulating a lot of different RSS feeds from different blogs that I like and interest me. And that's like my way of...
So in a day, do you spend like an hour, 10 minutes, 2 hours reading? Does it change?
Yeah, I think on a basic day, I think I have like probably 20 minutes at least of just reading something that I have no clue about before. And the most problematic thing for me is I think everything is interesting. So every time I go into something and I don't know something,
you go through the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and it splits, and then you might find like on the 10th split something that is very interesting because it's far from kind of what everyone's eyes on right now. And also you kind of think, why is that working like that? It's a bit,
So one of the things that we actually see a lot and talk about is how AI will impact everything.
Right.
As a researcher, what is your point of view about using those LLM models, using those AI machines?
Right. So it's pretty apparent that it's very good to write code very fast using AI, and people are already using it for all reasons, good and bad. But I think that the problematic part of it right now is it's not reliable. You can't put it in production. surely not that kind of mass of code which is generated very fast and being trustworthy. So right now I think people are looking to find way to have AI trusted code.
I have to agree. I think it's a great tool, but we are looking for the next step for more autonomy. So it can help and suggest, but I don't think we feel comfortable getting it the front wheel and us.
And also, you know, there are, I think if you think about things that have started very promising, like autonomous
Driving.
Yeah, driving, and people, it's like, people thought like 10 years ago it will already be safe, but the level of assurance that you need kind of limits you. And today we have a very, very small, you know, wow, it can park by itself or whatever, but it's very different than how we picture it.
It's not there yet, but I do think that LLM and AI are getting there quickly, and we'll see, like every couple of months, a new model, a new development. It's an exciting time.
Also, I think that it will be very interesting to see how people will pick, like a lot of weight would go on picking the right module for the right task. So it's still not very easy to decide right now. It's very hard
it's a black box in any case.
It's also very hard to compare, because you'll give, you know, the same input twice to the same LLM, and that's the idea, and you'll get different results.
So Omer, as you mentioned before, you used to work at the Israeli CERT, and then you went from the government side to the private side.
Right.
So as a researcher, what are the differences in your point of view?
So working for government was very interesting, because you see a lot of APTs and state nation samples that no one sees and no one research except for you. And moving to the private sector, your focus is much more on the product and the field that you are working at.
So you don't cover Chinese or Russian actors, you actually cover web application or databases.
Exactly. And you also, you know, do you like this product or not? In the government, it's not even a question, you know.
So you talk a lot about what interests you, but what frustrates you, which is part of the job?
Yeah, so I find that today, because in R&D companies, everything is so agile and moving so fast, I think most application security people are just running after R&D, asking R&D questions, and not providing real value, just like running after R&D, and that's really frustrating, and I don't think that's where application security should be. I also think that in a way we had too much of grace in application products, application security products and security products, and I don't think we hold standards that would have been allowed in any other field. But, and I think we're starting to, like, the industry starts to judge us for that and not accept products that are less than actual value. And also we had a lot of backwind from compliance, basically making people buy security products and not even using them. I hope this is not the way the field is will keep evolving. And I do see a change where developers want real products and people want products that they can benefit from.
Based on the work you did at Enzo, I can totally see where this is coming from and wanting to bring more value for customers. Thank you very much for joining us today. I know that you are quite active on social. I really encourage people to follow you and your researchers. Just before we go, any things that you are monitoring now, any new research that you have seen that you think people will be interested about?
Yeah, I have a few. I really see a lot of things that are building very fast. For instance, I was interested in Arc browser.
I'm not sure everybody is familiar with the Arc browser. Can you explain?
Yeah, so Arc browser, it's a new web browser based on Chromium. So it's like has all the basic what we know of browsing, but it also adds a lot of elements of on product side, like how to maintain a better browsing experience. And the main thing is it's a very new product in a way. Like if you think of Chrome and the way that it got its maturity took a long time, but it gains a lot of traction and a lot of people are using it. And security-wise, there are some, I think, interesting thing to check in some of its features.
Okay, cool. We'll be looking at those research.